Aja Wilson just had a public meltdown that everyone's talking about. And the reason behind it is way bigger than you think. What she said about Caitlin Clark during the finals has the entire basketball world picking sides right now. The 2025 WNBA finals just wrapped up, but nobody's talking about the basketball anymore. Instead, every sports channel, every podcast, every social media feed is flooded with clips of Aja Wilson losing it on the sidelines. We're talking shouting, blaming, and calling out what she thinks is ruining the league. And at the center of all this drama is one name. Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation who signed a contract that changed everything. But here's what most people are missing about this whole situation. Let's rewind for a second. Aja Wilson is not some random player complaining. This woman is a 2-time MVP. She's got championships. She's been the face of the WNBA for years. She carried the Las Vegas Aces when nobody else could. She put in the work when the cameras weren't rolling and when the stands were half empty. So, when she starts pointing fingers during the biggest games of the year, you have to ask yourself what pushed her to that point. The finals were supposed to be her moment. Another chance to prove she's the best player in the world. Another opportunity to add to her legacy. But instead of celebrating her game, instead of fans flooding arenas to watch her dominate, the entire conversation shifted. And it shifted to someone who wasn't even on the court with her. Caitlin Clark. Now, Clark didn't play in these finals. She wasn't even in the building. But her presence was everywhere. The media couldn't stop talking about her. Fans were wearing her jersey. Analysts were debating her impact on the league. And Wilson could see it all happening in real time. Every interview, every press conference, every post-game segment somehow circled back to Caitlin Clark. And that's when things started to crack. During Game 3, cameras caught Wilson on the bench, visibly frustrated. She wasn't just upset about a bad call or a missed shot. She was staring at the stands. Rows and rows of empty seats. The same seats that were packed when Clark played earlier in the season. Wilson shook her head, said something to her teammates, and you could read her lips clear as day. She was talking about Clark. She was talking about the hype. And she was not happy. After the game, reporters asked her about the atmosphere. They wanted to know how it felt playing in front of a smaller crowd than expected for a finals game. And Wilson didn't hold back. She said the league had created a monster. She said the marketing machine built around one player was cannibalizing everything else. She said fans only cared about highlights and viral moments now, not about the players who had been grinding for years. And then she dropped the line that set the internet on fire. She said Caitlin Clark's media circus had overshadowed the finals and made it feel like a sideshow. To understand why Wilson snapped, you need to understand what this season was like for her. From day one, every single storyline was about Caitlin Clark, the #1 draft pick. The college legend, the player who sold out arenas during March Madness, the rookie who was supposed to save the WNBA. Clark came into the league with more hype than any player in history. And the league leaned into it hard. Every broadcast focused on her. Every highlight reel started with her. Every ticket sales spike was credited to her. The WNBA marketing department put her face on everything. Billboards, commercials, social media campaigns. It was Clark, Clark, Clark. And for players like Wilson, who had been carrying the league for years, it felt like a slap in the face. Wilson had won back-to-back MVPs. She had led her team to championships. She had put up numbers that rivaled the greatest players in WNBA history. But none of that seemed to matter anymore. The narrative had shifted. The league had found its new golden child, and everyone else was just background noise. And it wasn't just about attention. It was about money. Caitlin Clark signed a contract that nobody saw coming. $50 million. Not with the WNBA, with a brand new international women's basketball league that was launching to compete directly with the WNBA. $50 million for a rookie. That's more than most WNBA veterans make in their entire careers combined. That's more than Aja Wilson has made in her entire professional life. When that news broke, it sent shockwaves through the league. Players were stunned. Agents were scrambling. Front offices were panicking. Because if Clark could get that kind of money elsewhere, what did that mean for the WNBA? What did that mean for the players who had been loyal to the league? What did that mean for the future? Wilson saw that contract and realized something. The game had changed. The leverage had shifted. And she wasn't the one holding the cards anymore. Clark had options. Clark had leverage. Clark had the world at her feet. Meanwhile, Wilson was stuck in a system that undervalued her despite everything she had accomplished. But here's where it gets complicated. Because Wilson's frustration isn't entirely about Clark. It's about what Clark represents. It's about a system that rewards potential over production. It's about a media landscape that chases clicks over credibility. It's about a fan base that forgets loyalty the second something shiny and new comes along. During the finals, Wilson played out of her mind. She averaged over 25 points per game. She grabbed double-digit rebounds. She played lockdown defense. She did everything a superstar is supposed to do. But when the games ended, the headlines weren't about her performance. They were about the empty seats. They were about declining ratings. They were about how the league was struggling without Caitlin Clark. Wilson read those articles. She saw those tweets. She heard the analysts say the finals didn't have the same energy without Clark, and every single one of those comments felt like a dagger. Because she was right there. She was bawling out. She was doing everything possible to carry her team. But it still wasn't enough. In one post-game interview, Wilson was asked directly about Clark's impact on the league. The reporter wanted to know if she thought Clark's presence earlier in the season had raised the profile of the WNBA. Wilson paused. You could see her thinking about how to answer. And then she just let it out. She said the Clark hype had been exhausting. She said it felt like the league was betting everything on one person instead of building a sustainable foundation. She said it was frustrating to watch fans disappear when Clark wasn't playing, as if the rest of the league didn't exist. She said it felt disrespectful to the players who had been putting in work long before Clark ever stepped on a professional court. The media ran with it. Headlines exploded. Aja Wilson slams Caitlin Clark. Aja Wilson blames Clark for empty final seats. Aja Wilson jealous of Clark's success. The narrative spiraled out of control. And Wilson found herself in the middle of a firestorm she didn't fully intend to create. But fans didn't see it that way. They saw Wilson as bitter. They saw her as insecure. They saw her as someone who couldn't handle another player getting attention. Social media tore her apart. Comments flooded in calling her a hater. Memes popped up showing her sitting on the bench looking miserable. People accused her of being jealous instead of supportive. And the more she tried to explain herself, the worse it got. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark stayed quiet. She didn't respond to Wilson's comments. She didn't take the bait. She just kept doing what she always does. Playing basketball, posting workouts, engaging with fans, staying focused. And that composure only made Wilson look worse in comparison. Because while Wilson was venting her frustrations, Clark was out there being the bigger person. And fans noticed. Then came the moment that really set everything off. Game 5 of the finals. Winner take all. The championship on the line. Wilson's team was down by 3 with less than a minute to go. The pressure was insane. This was Wilson's chance to silence all the noise. This was her chance to prove she was still the best. She got the ball on the wing. Defender in her face. Clock winding down. She shot. It rimmed out. Rebound, putback attempt. Missed again. Game over. Championship lost. And Wilson just stood there, frozen, staring at the basket. Cameras zoomed in on her face. You could see the devastation, the exhaustion, the weight of everything crashing down at once. As the opposing team celebrated, Wilson walked off the court without shaking hands, without congratulating anyone. She went straight to the locker room. And that's when things got really messy. Because word started leaking about what happened behind closed doors. Sources said Wilson broke down. She yelled about the league not supporting her. She yelled about the media disrespecting her legacy. She yelled about fans only caring about viral moments and social media stars. And yes, she brought up Caitlin Clark again. She said the league had created a system where one player's hype mattered more than everyone else's work. She said it was impossible to compete with that kind of manufactured narrative. Her teammates tried to calm her down. Coaches tried to talk to her, but Wilson wasn't hearing it. She felt betrayed. She felt undervalued. She felt like everything she had built was being erased by someone who hadn't even proven themselves yet at the professional level. The next day, Wilson held a press conference. She looked tired, eyes red, voice shaky. She started by congratulating the opposing team. Then she talked about her own performance. And then, inevitably, someone asked her about the Clark situation. Wilson took a deep breath. She said she had no problem with Caitlin Clark as a person or a player. She said Clark was talented and deserved success. But she also said the league had made a huge mistake by putting all its eggs in one basket. She said marketing shouldn't come at the expense of the players who had been loyal for years. She said the $50 million contract Clark signed exposed how broken the WNBA system really was. She said players like her, who had given everything to the league, were being left behind. She said it hurt to watch fans only show up for one person. She said it hurt to see empty seats in the finals after the arena was packed during regular season games when Clark played. She said it felt like her legacy didn't matter anymore. And then she said something that shocked everyone. She said she was considering her options. She didn't commit to coming back next season. She didn't say she was loyal to the WNBA forever. She left the door wide open. And just like that, the biggest star in the league hinted that she might walk away. So where does this leave us? A'ja Wilson is one of the greatest players in WNBA history. Multiple MVPs, championships, dominant performances year after year. But right now, she's in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. She's being painted as bitter, jealous, and unable to handle the spotlight shifting to someone else. But is that fair? Because if you really break it down, Wilson has a point. The WNBA did go all in on Caitlin Clark. The marketing was relentless. The hype was everywhere. And when Clark wasn't on the court, the energy dropped. Fans stopped showing up. Ratings went down. The finals felt smaller. That's not Wilson's fault. That's a league problem. At the same time, Wilson's delivery was rough. She came across as angry and defensive instead of thoughtful and measured. She aimed her frustration at Clark when the real issue was with the league's marketing strategy and the massive contract disparity. Clark didn't ask to be put on a pedestal. She just played ball and let her game speak. Wilson could have taken that same approach. Instead, she made it personal. And that's where she lost people. The Caitlin Clark $50 million contract is a game changer. It proves that women's basketball players can command massive deals if the right situation presents itself. But it also exposes how far behind the WNBA is when it comes to paying its stars. A'ja Wilson has been one of the best players in the world for years, and she's never sniffed that kind of money. That has to sting. That has to make you question your value. This whole situation is bigger than one tantrum during the finals. It's about respect. It's about legacy. It's about a league struggling to figure out its identity. It's about veterans feeling left behind while rookies get all the glory. It's about a system that rewards hype over sustained excellence. Wilson isn't wrong for being frustrated, but the way she expressed it cost her. Fans saw her as petty instead of principled. They saw her as jealous instead of justified. And now her legacy is tied to this moment whether she likes it or not. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, came out looking like a superstar. She didn't engage. She didn't throw shade. She stayed focused. And that's exactly what winners do. She let her game and her composure do the talking. Meanwhile, Wilson's outburst became the story. And that's the irony. Wilson wanted the attention back on her. Instead, she made sure everyone kept talking about Caitlin Clark. The WNBA has some serious decisions to make. Do they continue betting everything on one player? Do they find ways to elevate their veterans and show loyalty? Do they address the pay gap that's making players consider jumping ship? Because if they don't, A'ja Wilson won't be the last star to express frustration. She'll just be the first. This finals meltdown revealed something important. The league is at a crossroads. The old guard feels disrespected. The new generation is bringing unprecedented attention. And somewhere in the middle, the WNBA has to figure out how to keep everyone happy. Right now, they're failing. A'ja Wilson's tantrum wasn't just about empty seats or Caitlin Clark's hype. It was about a player who gave everything to a league that moved on the second something flashier came along. It was about feeling replaceable. It was about watching your legacy get overshadowed in real time. And honestly, you can't blame her for snapping. But here's the thing. Greatness isn't just about talent. It's about how you handle adversity. It's about how you respond when things don't go your way. It's about rising above the noise and proving your worth through your game, not your complaints. Caitlin Clark gets that. A'ja Wilson is learning that the hard way. If you want to see what happens next in this saga, hit subscribe because this story is far from over.